And welcome to our live show. Today is going to be another health talk where we just sit around and casually chew the cud about some health issues. You know, my channel's kind of all over the place. I used to do a lot of health stories, and then I just fell into other things. And, you know, whatever I feel like talking about is what happens. So lately, though, I keep getting a lot of health questions. And surprisingly, one of the ones that come up a lot is about infertility. Now, I got to give you a little background about this, the infertility, because it's kind of a strange bird. A lot of people will be like, what does a chiropractor know about infertility? At first, I'm going to explain there's some natural methods that are really important that chiropractors do to help you with infertility. But on top of that, I kind of stumbled into this and then started helping. I got to be careful how I say this, Barbara. Like, you know, I helped a lot of women get pregnant, right? Like, I got a lot of women pregnant. So I can't even talk. I mean, it's hard to say without no good way to say it. I helped a lot of patients.
You assisted
with their spouses to get
pregnant.
Yeah,
You weren't the donor. It's okay.
All right, let me try this again. All right, so what happened is I had patients come in and they would tell me about their infertility problems, and there's some special moves chiropractors can do that can kind of help that. And I had such success with it that they started telling their friends and so on and so on. And all of a sudden I had this like part of my clinic became an infertility clinic. It was just by accident. It's not something I tried to do. So I started studying it and getting much better at it. Over the years, I've learned some tricks that'll help. And we're also going to discuss, so the first half of the show, we're going to discuss infertility, what you can do to increase your chances and deal with that. And then the second half of the show is we're going to talk about carrying a baby to term. Actually, some tips I can give you for a healthy pregnancy, because some women get pregnant but just can't seem to have the baby. They miscarry over and over, and some women just can't get pregnant. So we're going to talk about both reasons why that happens. Now, to start, let me say this. There are all kinds of reasons that infertility happens. I'm going to be talking about the main ones, but you could be that weird case that there's some sort of thing going on with you that I didn't discuss, and that'll happen. But I'm going to mainly focus on the ones I saw every day. So understand that. The infertility is kind of a, I really have a big heart for these women who used to come into practice, because I would hear these infertility stories and they were just heartbreaking, because they would spend insane amounts of money to go to a fertility clinic and try to make this happen. And I was just blown away with how much money people would spend to try to have a baby. You know, I would always be like, just go adopt, or, you know, something like they really wanted their own baby. So I had to be sympathetic to that. And over the years, I learned some things. But before we really dive in, let me introduce my co-host here, Burma. So Burma is going to be jumping more into the second half of the show on pregnancy and what you can do to help that out. But Burma, you want to say hi? And
hi, everybody. I was going to say, as a woman, you know, I totally am into that whole infertility thing. Like, as far as the fact of being that kind of a woman, right? So I had my son when I was 19, right? And some people know that I gave him up for adoption because I was very young. And so I tried to have another one. And I was one of those women that could not go to the doctor and have the doctor tell me that I could not have a kid, because I didn't, you know, once you experience that, and that's what it is. It's the experience of having a baby, having this little alien life growing in your belly is just the oddest thing. But so yeah, I can sympathize with that, because that's a tough area to be in. So it's very nice of you to help out those women getting pregnant.
Well, I honestly, I have a, you know, a lot of the amount of tears that were shed in my office over this was a lot. And you got to be made of stone not to want to help these people.
Right.
And it used to really irritate me because before they went a natural route, these women would go directly to the medical route. See, I'm like a conservative guy. I in a sense that if I have a problem, I try to do the least invasive thing first. I'll go to the chiropractor first, go do some nutrition. And if that stuff's not working, okay, maybe I'll go, if I have to take some sort of drug or surgery, I will. I'm not completely opposed to that stuff. There's a time and place for it, for sure. Absolutely. But most people run right out and get the drugs or the surgery, you know, as their first answer without even going the other route.
That's when they have a litter.
Yeah, that's true.
That's when they have a litter. I mean, like, I'm going to try to be mean here, but
become the octo mom, yeah.
Right. I mean, like, she took so many fertility drugs that she's popping out a litter of kids, you know.
Yep. Oh, Vegan joined us. Vegan, I sent you an email.
Hi, Vegan.
Go check your email, man. Anyway, so we're going to talk about these things, and we're going to dive in, and I'm going to really then address just some stuff probably you didn't know about, honestly, or you've never heard. And if you're one of these ladies that are trying to get pregnant and you're like, man, should I go to the infertility doctor? Why don't you try some least invasive things first? Try a conservative approach. You know, go deal with the stuff we're talking about first. And if that doesn't work, there's always the other expensive options. Okay. Jeez, Vegan. All right. You see what he wrote? Anyway.
No, I know. I'm not watching, so you have to share now. Is it?
No, I'm not saying that on air.
You can't share?
No.
Vegan, be nice.
Oh my gosh. All right, here we go. So I'm feeling this is going to be a train wreck of a show because it's like a serious topic and women.
Yeah, but it is a serious topic. But you can't.
I'm not trying to take away from that, but this is our personalities, and I can't just be like, oh, okay, we're going to shut those off. You know, the best way to deal with this stuff also is a little dose of humor. You gotta understand. I hear your cat running.
I know, she's totally talking to me. She's like, meow, meow, you're on the computer. Can I bother you? I can mute out if you want.
No. I like cats. I love it. It just I'm just laughing because cats.
Well, right. Yours couldn't start the show, so mine need to do something.
My cat's gone, man. He's the worst cat now. He used to be the most loving, sweet cat, and now as the summer's here, man, he wants nothing to do with me. He comes in, he gets food, and then he meows at the door and scratches it until you let him out, and that's it. Like, there's no loving, there's no holding, there's no wrapping himself like a scarf. I have to wait till next winter, I guess.
Oh my God, she's like a just huge kitty. Say, this is my beautiful Missy. If she looks up at the camera, he'll look up at the camera. So how pretty you are to everybody. Seeing how big you are, she's just like a huge cat.
Yeah, that is pretty. All right, anyway,
so I'm sorry.
Yeah, Heather's like, okay, so anyhow, I'm sorry. Cats distract the show. They do. Okay, here we go. So here's what we're going to get into is infertility. And the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to talk about, as a chiropractor, what the first thing I do. Now, if I couldn't have a baby, the very first stop I would make would be the chiropractor. And I'm going to explain why, because you're going to be like, what? But this will make sense. Let me pull up a picture. And we talked a little about this on the arthritis show, but I don't think it can be said enough. So here's a picture of your nervous system. Now, what chiropractors do is they check the nervous system. And these nerves that come out of your spine all do things. So if you have a pinched nerve that comes out of your spine and it does not work right because it's pinched at the bones, like the bone's out of place and it's pinching these nerves, we call it, the fancy word for it's a subluxation. If you get subluxated, it can cause problems with organs because these nerves all go to things. So what the problem, though, when we're talking about infertility is we start looking at the low back. And many women that come in with infertility problems from a chiropractic standpoint will usually have L4, L5, S1 problems, usually compression of this disc at L5. And if you notice here, these are all the things they go to, but you notice that one of the things these nerves supply are the reproductive organs, okay? And the uterus and the ovaries. The nerve supply from this area of the spine controls this. So if the nerves get pinched, they can cause all kinds of problems. Like you'll have a unusual menses, probably either maybe a heavy flow or one that lasts like a week. You know, lots of
is it normal
periods.
for some women though to be that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of women out there that have menstrual issues. So could that be a normal thing for them, or could that be, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me jump into that in a second. I'll dive into it.
I just had a question, so I figured
No, go ahead. And you're probably watching it and have the same questions. But notice all the things that can happen if this area of the spine gets compressed. Menstrual problems, premenstrual problems, obviously, regular periods. You can start, you can have early menopause problems and infertility, low sex drive. Any of this sound familiar to you, ladies? Okay, so I'm going to take a break here, and we're going to talk about this. So, as you were saying, you didn't have to mute out. I didn't put you in timeout, did I, Verba?
No, okay. I'm okay.
So let's talk about ladies, as far as these problems. So the first thing we're going to do is trace the nervous system, because that's the easiest thing to deal with. And if I used to tell my patients, really, 3 to 4 days about normal, shorter if it's a heavy flow, longer if it's a little lighter flow, but that's about normal. And some women are like, you know, hey man, I've been a week to 9 days and that's my normal my whole life. Just because that's what you do your whole life doesn't necessarily mean it's normal, that your hormones could be a little off. Sure, there's the exception where that is their normal, but that's not usually my experience. When I found that I started adjusting them, what I found out is their cramps would get a lot better and their cycles would change. It was very common when I adjusted them that their cycles would start immediately. Like, you know, they'd be like, Doc, why am I menstruating on day 12? You know, it's because the nerves were blocked to your uterus for 20 years. And once the nerves were not blocked, your body's like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to be working like this, you know? So your spine works like a, spine works kind of like, I guess a fuse box is a good way to describe it. You know, you got this fuse box in your house, you got all these wires to different appliances, and say your refrigerator, you know, say the wire or the fuse to that refrigerator, the fuse goes out. Well, I can call a refrigerator repairman and try to fix that fridge and do all these replace parts, but it's never going to work until I flip the power back onto it. So that's the same way your ovaries and your uterus work. If the nerve is compressed, it's not really going to work well until you put the power back on, until you go in and you remove the subluxation and the nerve can flow freely and not be impinged.
So Doc, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead.
So since I'm the girl on the panel, okay, so since I was young, well, first mine didn't come till I was like 16, but I went to a chiropractor when I was 17, something like that, and he was telling me my hips were off, and I'm like thinking nowadays everybody's a little bit off there, right? Because like if your one leg's higher than the other, you're a little off. But mine have been. Ow! Hold on a second. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm sorry. She like just nailed me in the legs. Oh, I bet I'm bleeding. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So, oh my god, I'm so sorry. It was both of them too. Oh, that was not fun.
Yeah, the cat launch is the worst when they launch.
Oh, she's got some nails. So you're saying that like the heavy is not normal. I mean,
it can be if it's a shorter period, you know, if it's like 4 days. I've seen women have a 2-day period and they have a heavy day and they're done. And that's it. You know, it really depends because there's, you know, you're basically having to slough off all that internal stuff. And if it comes out slowly, it's going to be a long process. If it comes out fast, it's a shorter process. So it's just kind of an amount thing.
I am bleeding. She actually got me good.
everybody's sending you hearts. All right, I'll take back over for a minute.
Yeah, so just give me a second. I'll be right back.
Here's where we start. We're going to start with the nervous system. Now, there are many times that I have just removed the nerve interference to the uterus and the ovaries, and all of a sudden their eggs started working right. And they started, you know, their uterus could actually hold an egg for fertilization. You know, sorry, it could implant into the uterus is what I mean to say. You know, if you got to imagine if you have a nerve that goes to it and it's pinched and your uterus or ovaries only getting half that signal, what are your chances that you're really going to get pregnant? It's going to have a problem. Now, that is where to start, because I think that's the easiest place. And then after that, we are going to roll into the nutrition side. And that's why I have Vegan with us. So Vegan Warrior, hey.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hello to the
How you doing?
ladies.
Hi, Vegan.
Hey. Hi. Hey, Burma.
How are you?
Yeah.
All right.
So we're going to bring him into the play in a little bit. But I'm going to show you one of the biggest. There's two big reasons women are infertile. And they're rarely addressed in infertility clinics and things like that. Their approach is kind of different. They're like, well, let's give you these hormones to release a whole bunch of eggs, and we'll just, you know, roll the dice and see if we can get one to go. Where my approach is more of, let's get the body to work normal. You know, why are you having these problems? So what I would suggest first is that you get checked for. Most of the women have a PCOS problem. Now, that's polycystic ovary syndrome. So let me show you a little picture of what that means. And a lot of you ladies are probably aware, or you have fibroids yourself, or you know somebody that has ovary issues. Now, I did a whole story about this that goes into a lot deeper. You can look in this picture. If you find it on my page, this is the story. But let's talk about this. What's supposed to happen is during your cycle, your ovaries make cysts. And these cysts, what happens with the cyst is that they normally have a few cysts at one time. So an ovary will actually produce a bunch of cysts during your cycle, but the dominant cyst is the one that comes to the surface, pops, and makes an egg. Then after that cycle's over, they kind of go dormant and sort of reabsorb and chill out till the next round. Okay, so what happens after this is that with polycystic ovary syndrome, the cysts that are supposed to reabsorb don't really reabsorb, and they just stay at the surface, and you get this knobby cystic ovary. All right, polycystic ovary syndrome creates all kinds of havoc too. Now, it's kind of just really a side effect of, and we're going to talk about what the real cause of it is. But if you have PCOS, it is probably, in my opinion, the #1 reason people can't get pregnant. Now, what this means is that your ovaries don't produce eggs right, and those all those cysts can create scar tissue and can make it very hard for them to pop out the way they're supposed to pop out. So what eventually happens, though, is you start doing what's called aromatization. And let me show you what that is. Sorry, the screen share is a little slow on this. I'm going to show you two different pictures, and for you chemistry nerds, I'll show you a little first. Okay, so here's aromatization. Aromatization is the breakdown of how we make sex hormones. Okay, you make everything out of cholesterol, and depending on what you got going in, you have this pregnenolone, and if you have a lot of stress, your body steals the pregnenolone, and it's called a pregnenolone steal cycle. Most women I know who can't carry a baby live really stressful lives. They're addicted to coffee. They run around the house, and they're stressed. They don't sleep. Anyway, all these things cause problems. So you could even have a pregnenolone problem because of stress and cortisol levels. But what eventually happens here with aromatization is this monster here, C1720 lyase, is an enzyme you need in order to make sex hormones. So let me show you the next step in this for a sec. And one more. Sorry, this screen share is a little slow. Okay, So here's the next half of this. I couldn't fit it all on one screen. So you start making things like progesterone, well, then you can see if you just follow the cycle, eventually all this stuff, these sex hormones are pretty much made out of cholesterol and come down this pathway and eventually either become testosterone or progesterone. But the problem here, and obviously aldosterone, the big problem is that when you have PCOS, it reverses this cycle. So women start making way more testosterone than they should. Men start becoming women. They start taking on women characteristics. They get man boobs and they get, I'm not trying to be sexist, but they get a lot more emotional and, you know, like estrogen dominant. Now, this is called aromatization, and many women who can't get pregnant are aromatizing. They some of the signs you can see is if you seem to be growing more hair than you used to, like you're growing hair on your chin and your legs are growing really thick, kind of like man hair. That's a good sign that you might have PCOS. Adult cystic acne, you know, somebody who's 30 that has acne on their face, like a lot of it, they probably have PCOS. Those are kind of like the easy ones to tell. Also, there's two different sides of PCOS. There's like a skinny PCOS and a heavy PCOS. And the heavier people are more common. They're usually like a heavier woman. They're kind of looking more manly. Their voice is maybe a little deeper than it should be. They're getting hair on their face. They get acne more than they should. They're growing hair on their body. Those sort of things are big signs that, hey, big red flag, PCOS. And they usually want to have a baby, and they have a problem over and over with this because they just can't seem to get pregnant, or if they get pregnant, they sure as heck don't hold the baby. Now, let's talk about this. What causes PCOS in women? Well, PCOS is actually about 90% of the times caused by diet. Actually, hell, I'll even say like 99% of the time, because I've only ever seen it caused by diet. Now, that doesn't mean it's fully like that, but that's in my experience. I've only ever seen it caused by diet. And it is usually because of insulin resistance. Now, insulin resistance means that you eat too much processed food and that your body cannot handle and process sugar like it's supposed to. So insulin resistance is ultimately what causes your hormones to reverse, why men grow boobs and women grow hair, and also why you can't carry a baby. So we have to deal with insulin resistance and an insulin resistance diet. And that's kind of what I brought vegan on for, because in my experience, usually a vegan diet, as long as you kind of control the carbs a little bit, is probably the best way. Yeah, we'll get to that. I don't know why you're muted.
No, I was just putting in there.
Oh yeah,
I didn't want to interrupt you. Wrong.
Well, the PCOS. All right, let's break this down. The PCOS is the biggest problem. Autoimmune is the second biggest problem. And we're going to talk about autoimmune, and a lot of women have both. They hit the infertility jackpot and get them both.
Well, it just makes a lot of sense. Like everything that we've been talking about for the last couple, like this 2 shows now, are like it's like a big circle. You know, the autoimmune thing that has taught me so much and helped me to help other people too. So thank you for that.
You're going to find out that as we keep talking about these chronic stuff, you're going to be like, hey, that's the same thing you said last show. Clean up my diet. Hey, that's the last thing.
Yeah, I know. And you keep bringing vegan on just to throw it up in my face. Keep reminding me that I need to go that route. I know.
Well, I bring vegan on because he walks the talk and he does what he says.
I know. It's amazing.
And he has
vegan.
Because it's easy to say stop eating sugar, but why the hell can't we stop eating sugar? Why do we keep having this destructive lifestyle? And vegan deals with, yeah, I mean, he's a personal trainer and a coach and lifestyle coach, and he deals with the mental crap of why can't you stop eating this way? That's destroying you and making you infertile. So,
right,
vegan. Let's talk some turkey. Go ahead and let's talk about insulin resistance. What do you do for it?
Well, I think we should start off by clearly defining for the audience what a cis is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very important because I've talked to different people about, I've talked to a lot of different women. Most of my clients are women, and constantly I'll hear that they've been diagnosed with having cysts. What could you give me the clinical scientific definition of what a cyst is?
An ovary cyst is it's actually, I mean, it's a membrane, it's a cell that develops with the egg inside it, and it's just like a cell membrane. The wall thickens and it pops, but it's obviously a little more complicated than that. But that's where I want to keep it at. Is it works just like a cell popping.
Doesn't it come with pain too? Like if you have cysts in your ovaries, right? Well, the popping, absolutely, that's really painful. But I'm talking about like if you ovulate usually each month, right? You ovulate on one side, you ovulate on the other side from your ovaries, right? So there are some women, I think, that if they have cysts, they definitely could feel that ovulation coming out. It'll be more painful of an ovulation, don't you think?
Yeah, because if you have PCOS, there's a good chance that you have a bunch of scar tissue all over your ovary, and it rips that scar tissue out, and it hurts.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to a point where your ovaries get so beat up and scarred and cysty that they just stop working.
So the fluid inside of a cyst is consistent of what?
The fluid is just like any, as far as I understand, it's just any other osmotic fluid in your body, that it's going to mainly be water and some electrolytes that pop. Right. Because it's just a vessel to excrete an egg.
Right.
It's really like almost like a pocket of fluid and air and pop.
Right. Right.
The magic.
So the reason I brought that up is because a lot of foods support that environment. It supports these types of environments where the body can lose a form of homeostasis. The body is constantly fighting to balance itself out, but then we consume various foods that knock us out of that balance. And the more that the body is out of ease, it creates a form of disease. And dis-ease is probably a better way to say it, dis-ease. And I think if we can narrow down the simplicity of what the body is trying to do and how we are the primary causes in its failure to do what it's supposed to do, I think we're getting to the source of the problem. Like you just mentioned, nutrition, another word for nutrition is the shit you put in your mouth. Oh, excuse me, I can't curse.
Oh, he's taking on Danny.
All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry. The stuff you put in your mouth. The stuff you put in your mouth and you digest is nutrition. So if you're eating a Twinkie, if you're eating, having a weekend of drinking or whatever the case is, the question is, how much damage are you causing with your consumption? And I think a lot of people don't quite see the relevance. So when they become ill, it's kind of like, okay, how did I get ill? It's almost like this mysterious thing just happens to me. No, it's like Doc said, it's all linked to our consumption, and there's certain foods that if you eat it, it will put the body out of homeostasis. It creates a disease. It takes the body out of ease. That's the gist of it, in so many words.
That is, yeah, I mean, that's definitely the gist. But specifically, though, I want to talk more about insulin resistance because that's super common. Like, just about every overweight person in America has insulin resistance to a diabetic. You're on your way. If you don't know what insulin resistance is, it's kind of like a fancy way to say pre-diabetes. Sometimes they call it metabolic syndrome or syndrome X. It's all the same junk. It's basically that you're eating too much processed food and that your body cannot handle it and convert it correctly into sugar into the cells.
It's not just overweight people, Taryn. There are a lot of really thin people that get diabetes and have no idea that they have it, and they're very thin people.
We talk about that. It's called the skinny PCOS people that screw everything up because they come in and the doctors can't figure out what's wrong with you because you don't look like a diabetic. but
No,
you are.
Because their bodies handle the sugar just a little bit different. They
They're
might be
more
taller, or
they're more common to be hypoglycemic, or what's called functionally hypoglycemic, where
Right.
they swing back and forth even though they're skinny. They act like a hypoglycemic and an insulin resistant person depending on what time of day it is. They swing wildly back and forth with their blood sugar.
Right.
That's a functional hypoglycemic. Usually those are the skinny ladies that are addicted to coffee, that are stressed out.
I'm not skinny, but I'm addicted to coffee. I'm just hazelnut.
You know what I mean?
Hazelnut coffee. I love it.
That's a high stress person.
Yeah, that imbalance. You know, it's long as the body's not in that state of homeostasis. No matter what your size is, you can be unhealthy. The reason why we talk so much about overweight people, because that's a clear indicator that something's going on. You know, when your body mass gets to a certain level, it's almost like the body is exposing its toxicity. You know, the thinner people is usually in how well they function. You know, if they're not functioning optimally, you know, there can be signs of dis-ease as well. You know, that's pretty much how it is.
Well, the good news is either side of that, if you're skinny or you're fat, the same kind of way eating will work. You want to stabilize your blood sugar. So you're going to focus on things that stabilize your blood sugar. Surprisingly, what people don't realize is that meat and oils can be a real problem with this. If you're a heavy oil eater too, which I didn't know this until I was really got deep into practice, that oil will keep you insulin resistant. It basically, for a better term, it coats some of the cells so that they don't function correctly at the membrane level, that they can't do the transfer of glucose because they're basically clogged up with this layer of fat on them. It's a nasty little cycle. It's like the more fat you have, the actually harder time you have processing fat. So that's why people get into this loop where they cannot get thin, because it gets.
Also tell them to stop using their dang microwaves too, because that's not doing anything for them either.
Yeah, and the plastics.
You know? I mean, I understand that it's easier to cook this way, but you cook vegetables or warm up vegetables in your microwave, you're losing all the nutrients out of your vegetables that way.
I mean, yeah, and it's toxic too to put it on plastic and all that crap.
Oh yeah, and like say it's waves. But microwaving your food. Sorry.
Bring it back to the no, it's okay. Bring it back to the insulin resistance, because that's the topic we're on at the second. Insulin resistance is going to be basically you want to control your processed sugars are out. Usually that comes with a problem with dairy too. Those are always dairy is a whole different animal, but I'll explain that one later. But usually the processed sugars in anything out of a box you just do not want to eat. Anything that's processed. And that's hard to do, because that's like, you know, your American lifestyle. You have to go back to 1950s and start cooking everything. And you want to go really light on the sugars. Complex carbs are usually okay, as far as like, you know, you can eat a potato, you can eat some rice if they slowly break down in you. You know, maybe like wild rice is a much better choice. But if you really are trying to get super serious, you could go on the kind of, you know, like a salad diet where you're just eating nothing but low carb vegetables. That will whip your blood sugar in a nice stable place pretty quick.
Right.
So tell us about it, vegan. Where do people start when they're?
Well, what I like to always emphasize is the concept of whole foods. A processed food is a manufactured food. It's a man-made food. It can be manipulated in various ways. And what it's trying to do is compare itself to a natural whole food. See, our natural whole foods are easily digestible and recognizable by the human body. So eating an apple for a source of sugar is ideal to the body. But buying a 5-pound bag of white processed sugar and using that on your cereal or in your coffee or whatever, that just has more destructive characteristics. And it seems like our ability to control the amount of sugar with whole foods is regulated well. But for some reason, when we consume processed sugars, we can literally lose control. We can overindulge, you know, and I think there's addictive qualities in processed sugars.
Oh yeah.
So there's so many negatives that comes with man-made processed foods, but then we have foods from nature. So the foods from nature, our body accepts for the most part, you know, and of course there's some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, if it's natural and it's whole food, your body is going to process and break that food down a lot easier than the processed sugars, you know, for the most part. I don't know. Did I answer your question?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, I appreciate the whole food talk, because I think anything that's closer to nature's view always the right answer. You know, is the less processed, the better. The problem is we've gotten a society where we eat 3 to 4 times a day, and they're heavy oils and heavy sugar foods, both which cause insulin resistance. So,
well, and a lot of people are sitting down all the time, and they're not as active as they used to be. So then putting in place
that definitely affects how your cells take in glucose. You know, you have these things called GLUT receptors, GLUT receptors, that actually cause you to bring insulin in, and the way to activate those is high amounts of exercise for short periods, like the interval training sort of thing.
Right, right. The other aspect of it is we're in a culture where we believe in our mind we're supposed to eat 3 times a day. I think that's part of the problem. I think we're actually consuming way more than we should actually be consuming. Some of us eat simply because it's morning. Some of us eat simply because it's lunch. Some of us eat because it's dinner. You know,
I eat when I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think we need to start take a look at our ideas of how we're supposed to consume and what we're supposed to consume. You know, a lot of people are eating way too much food, you know, or eating too often, you know, and they're doing it and they're doing it out of habit more than anything.
Yeah, and I think, like, in my own life, when I start really putting on weight and gaining shit is because I'm just it's chemically addicting to eat that stuff. Once you start eating bad food, it's like a withdrawal to come off it, man. There's a chemical. Again, I mean,
sugar is one of the highestly addicted things out there. Besides, I mean, it's worse than any drug that's out there right now. There's so many people addicted to the sugar, right?
It's so much worse than that, Burma, because they spend millions of dollars before they'll release something, trying to make it as addictive as possible. They'll throw it to studies and labs, and if we add 5% more of fat, we can make this even more addictive.
Or they rename the sugars. They rename the sugars when people learn what their sugars are in their whatever, and they're trying to read the labels. I mean, if it says stuff that you can't read, you probably shouldn't be eating it, because that stuff's not good for you. That's what I say.
It's so tough, because I think we know this as a kid. We're like, hey, eat fruit and vegetables. But how come none of us do it enough? Like, how come most of our diet is processed food?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it is our culture in this country. You know, you go to other countries, they eat a heck of a lot more healthier than what we do. In this country, we've gotten so fast paced of living, especially East and West Coast, like living our lives, that we need things that are fast because we're on the run,
There's whole generations of people like 20 and 30 that don't know how to cook food. Right. They literally go out and eat every single meal.
But like Vegan does, he doesn't cook. So you don't cook hardly anything, right, Vegan? You eat everything almost raw, right? Yeah. So I mean, like, really, we wouldn't really need to cook. I mean, you get a processor of some sort if you want to break down your fruits and vegetables. Because like me, I have a hard time with romaine's not too bad. I don't eat iceberg lettuce whatsoever. I think that's junk for myself, But sometimes I have a hard time handling the lettuce, and maybe that's the transformation over from eating what I'm currently eating, what I'm trying to slide off of, back to like more of a healthier diet. But I have a little bit of an issue. But if you have an issue with that, then you can take some kind of a thing that breaks all that stuff down, so your body then doesn't have to work so hard to break down those. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
So
that's exactly what I was going to say. The whole concept of eating less and eating more whole foods is to reduce the workload on your liver and your kidneys. I mean, if you're constantly pounding in food, that means your body is constantly at work. And at some point, if your system breaks down, and you're still ingesting all this food, you're going to start developing disease. You know, um, you gotta you gotta protect your internal organs. I mean, that's the way I look at it. The other aspect is we were talking about why a lot of people don't like fruits and vegetables. When the last time you seen an advertisement for fruits and vegetables? They don't push that. They don't promote that. They promote the junk, and they do it deliberately. Because fruits and vegetables are not subsidized. Fast food is subsidized.
it's
And
disgusting.
Yeah, it is
It
ridiculous.
is really disgusting. I mean, it really upsets me because you see all these people going to McDonald's, and to be quite honest, there are movies out there that show that one guy, what was it called, Fast Food America, Fast Food or something like that. That guy did like the McDonald's thing for he tried to do it for a month, and he was a vegan prior to that, right?
Oh,
Like everything, supersized me. Everything was good, and he did this, and then it showed that he got seriously sick. The doctor said you have to stop eating this unless you're gonna die. Like, what does that say about McDonald's? I mean, no offense. No offense towards McDonald's. I'm sorry.
There's healthy choices. They could have bought a salad at McDonald's. They don't. They buy crap.
They sprinkle sugar on that.
And I get it. It's the crap food's a lot more addicting.
McDonald's is the devil.
Well, and a lot of fast food, when I came off the truck, I was, like I said, I was a truck driver for like 10 years. So you try to do what you can do to be healthy on the road. So you do like more of like a Subway, right? But it's still everything's still processed, right? So you do what you can do. I never felt so horrible in my life sitting on that truck for 10 years and eating the crap that I had to eat, being inactive, right? But anybody can come back from that. Anybody, as long as they haven't damaged things, you can make the process of slowly, just one thing at a time. It's not going to be a whole lifestyle change in one instant second, because you won't stay there. I'm sure vegan could say the same thing. If you do it in a slow process and one thing at a time, it can be easier. So
right. But to Doc's point, as far as infertility and pregnancy and all that, diet is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah.
I mean, it is critical that if you want a healthy child, when I say a healthy child, I don't just mean physically. I'm talking about emotionally. I'm talking mentally. What you consume will directly impact your fetus. I mean, it's literally all the scientists out there now to show it. That's why they dropped smoking. I remember when I was younger, women used to smoke when they were pregnant. It wasn't a big deal. And then it came out that it was causing drastic side effects or impacting the fetus. And then they dropped that. And then they dropped the alcohol, and they dropped all this other stuff. But they need to keep going further. I'm of the opinion that a woman that's pregnant shouldn't consume nothing but whole natural foods. That's my opinion. Well, I kind of feel that way about everybody, but especially women.
Yeah, that's what people always ask, and we'll get into the pregnancy diet in a little bit, but I bet you can guess what we're going to say. Then let's jump on this other thing. So let's review for some people coming in late.
Sure.
Where I would start is the nervous system. It's one of the cheapest things to do. Just go to the chiropractor, get the nerve flow check to the ovaries. I have helped women get pregnant by doing nothing more than adjusting them, and they spend, and I am not kidding you, up to $50,000 at clinics trying to get this to work. And I was their last ditch effort. They come in, they cry, and I've been everywhere else, doc. You got 2 of my friends pregnant, help me out, and I know that sounds terrible.
Yeah, that sounds terrible.
And it was that, instead of coming to me first for a couple $100, this could have been done. You went and spent $50,000. It's so backwards. Like, don't go to the infertility clinic first. Go do the conservative, cheaper approach first. Then you can go spend $50,000.
Decrease your stress too.
Because it was a matter, and I am not joking. One lady I remember in particular, one adjustment. She was pregnant a week later, and it was like she had been trying for something like 6 years.
Wow.
And it was that simple. Because the nerve flow was completely shut off. I mean, she had terrible nerves. and the airflow was, choked out. So super inexpensive, easy solution. Go to a chiropractor first. Second, at the same time, clean up your diet. You're probably some sort of insulin resistance. You're probably PCOS and don't know it. PCOS is just a side effect of insulin resistance. Even though in this society we love to diagnose and name everything, it is a side effect ultimately of you eating too much processed food. Sorry, it's what it is. And so it is the number one reason women, in my opinion, women don't carry babies, can't get pregnant. The other is antibodies. If you have an autoimmune issue, which a lot of women do in this country, the APL antibodies, the anti-phospholipid, that's the number one reason for miscarriages, that you activate an antibody that attacks your own cells. They attack more than problems that cause miscarriages. They attack all kinds of cells. You can go to get a Cyrex test. I think it's array 5 or 4. They run about I'm a little off guard on this, but they run a panel to find out what antibodies you have going. If you want to know, it's a Cyrex. That's right. There's 20. Now it's coming back to me. There's 24 markers. They run a Cyrex array 5. It's a special test that probably your doctor has never ordered. I guarantee your fertility doctor probably has never ordered this test, and it will tell you all kinds of great stuff. It's 24 different autoimmune markers, because guess what? When you have one autoimmune disease, you have more than one. Almost always. As soon as you start that ball rolling, you start getting all kinds of stuff. And if you have the APL kind, you will start attacking yourself and not being able to carry a baby. That is, guess what helps autoimmune disease? Vegan. A whole food diet. Turning down your level of inflammation in your body,
right,
will drastically help turn down the level of the antibody response.
Right.
You want to drive these things into dormancy so you can have a baby without attacking yourself.
Right. Right.
It's also stress too. You know what I mean? Like if you're stressed out because you're trying to get pregnant, right? So it's all these things, and then you're not kind of bringing yourself down to a nice level of that. Then you can stress yourself right to not get pregnant or to have a miscarriage too, because your body's stressed out.
And the stress remember activates the cortisol, which activates problems with insulin. That's all related. So you have a stressed out mom who eats crap, that eats processed food multiple times a day, works too many hours, has other screaming kids at home or whatever. These stressed out women are like the perfect formula for infertility. You can't, because when your glucose levels go up, in a mother, that's related to macrosomia, that's congenital abnormalities, neural tube defects, and shoulder. When the shoulders get stuck when you're trying to deliver a baby, dystocia. When they have problems with that, it's a mess. So again, these solutions, chiropractor first, get your nerve checked. If it's autoimmune, guess what? Whole food diet works really good. If it's insulin resistant, whole food diet works really good. The other thing is, if it is autoimmune, you need to get a food panel done. Check to see if you're eating something that is causing it. If no foods are showing up, then it's possibly some sort of toxic chemical. I usually go food. If the food doesn't solve it, sometimes gut bacteria, if they have a lot of bloating and gas and they can't digest stuff or they're constipated, I will do that before I would do like a panel on check their stool, make sure it's not parasites or bacteria or something's out of balance, because those can cause so much stress to the system. They can kick on all your autoimmunity. So people be like, oh, I got a bacteria infection, now I'm autoimmune, I can't eat this stuff. And it's like, yeah, your system ramped up. As soon as your body, you have all these antibodies that are dormant, and as soon as something ramps them up, most of them go off at the same time. They either go the T2 pathway or the T1 pathway gets activated, and you can't turn that stuff off. It's really tough. So that's a problem. And you know, most women, like I say, when they're really bad shape, are a combination of both. If you're over 35 and you're fatigued all the time, it's probably like autoimmune issue that you probably haven't discovered, and you're probably some form of anemic. And by anemic, I'm not necessarily talking about iron. Don't go run out and buy iron. That anemia is all kinds of different things that can cause your blood not to carry oxygen. Okay, so we talked about those are the big ones. And the diet, it's actually cheaper to eat whole food sometimes. If you really want to get down to basics, you know.
Absolutely.
People will be like, it's so expensive to eat right. Only if you're buying like
processed vegan foods.
Processed vegan food, like, you know, a thing of apples isn't that expensive.
It's even that easier in the summertime when you can buy your local produce and stuff like that. You can go to all kinds of like little tiny areas where they sell.
And some people, I remember my friends would buy everything in season and then just freeze the stuff for the winter. They'd have just nonstop smoothies, or if you get sick of those in the winter, you know, it's okay to stew your food too. Like I used to stew my apples and it was wonderful. It tasted great, but you know, if you get tired of cold stuff. So understand anything that can bring your inflammation level down. Some people are saying essential oils are helpful. Sure. Yeah. Anything, essential oils that target inflammation are really helpful. Anything that brings that down will stop the autoimmune response is what you want to do. And then the other thing is deal with stop eating crap. Put the cigarettes down, put the coffee down, put the, you know, the fast food and all that crap. And I know it's so hard because our lifestyles, something changed so much in our lifestyle over the last 50 years that people don't cook at home. People don't have time to cook at home. You know, both parents have to work. You know what? Do a lifestyle check, step back and live somewhere cheaper. If that's what you got to do.
And for the males, Taryn, it's not just females that have infertility problems. The male, I just read recently that the male's infertility is coming up like gangbusters. Like,
yeah, it's a good point. I forgot to mention, but do you remember that diagram I put up earlier about how the aromatizing, where the males make female hormones and the females make male hormones?
Yeah.
And you're behind the couple these days and you can't tell who's the male and female anymore because they become each other, they've merged into each other. Those sort of things are because of the this aromatizing effect of like I was saying, insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes this, so the male can become infertile because he eats a crap diet, and the women can be, and then most likely you both are eating crappy diets because you're a couple and you eat the same things.
So I guess if you want to just stay infertile, then just stay that way.
If you before I go below $50,000 on a damn infertility clinic, eat some damn vegetables. Stop it. You know, oh, it's too hard. I can't do that. I'll just get the drugs. You can spend $50,000 at a clinic. Stop.
You can take that money and put it towards raising your kid.
You can hire a damn personal chef for $50,000 to cook everything you want.
I know. Well, you know, another thing that a lot of people don't know, erectile dysfunction is directly linked to diet. It's directly linked. It's it's literally clottering of arteries. You know, the pipes are backed up, and if the blood flow is not flowing properly, you're going to have that. So when they first came out with, Doc, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I worked for Merck Pharmaceuticals.
Oh, you did?
And,
whoa.
Yeah, I used to be a
part of the dark side.
We got inside man.
Yeah, it was a great job in the 90s.
Merck here is Merck Sharp and Dome here is really big. But did you work down at the one down in North Wales?
In Jersey, in South Jersey, and the whole issue back then was Viagra. You know, Viagra was a big deal. But what a lot of people don't know is Viagra was initially being prepared to be a heart medication drug, or was it? I think it was heart medication or cholesterol reducing type drug. And they found out that the side effect of that drug was what it can do, Viagra, you know? And they said, whoa, this helps erectile dysfunction, and they use it for that. But a man's diet will directly have an impact on his fertility, you know, as far as erections. And And I experienced that directly prior to being vegan, and then seeing the results of how I lost that condition. You know, so I got personal experience with it directly.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point. Is people are like, well, if I eat a crappy insulin-resistant diet, a standard American diet, they understand that they get their pipes clogged up. You get fats and plaques and all kinds of stuff in your blood vessels in your heart. Why do you think they're? You think they're only in your heart? You don't think they're also down in your happy vessels?
Yeah.
You know, guess what? They're everything's going to be clogged.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem, and it's also cholesterol medicine, which is funny too. It has the opposite effect, where you take this cholesterol medicine and it can cause problems with ED because it attacks the nerves, not the blood vessels. But you need two things. You need the nerve to say, hey, pump some blood in there. And then you need nice clean pipes that the blood can get into.
Right.
And, you know, if you have a problem with the nerves, guess what? If you're on some sort of cholesterol drug, you might have problems with the nerves. It strips all the nerves, you know, the insulation that goes around them. Guess what they're made of? Cholesterol. So when you start taking a cholesterol drug, you start running out of cholesterol for your nerves, and which means all this, you get nerve pain in your legs, and then your penis doesn't work, and all kinds of this. But man, you got good cholesterol numbers. Don't worry about it. You know, it's like it'll look good on the test, but
one of the first signs of a heart attack, incoming heart attack, is erectile dysfunction. So when you start having erectile dysfunction, you're not that far away from a heart attack, you know. And a lot of these guys, they're popping these pills and Cialis and all this different stuff. They're not addressing the underlying issue. The underlying issue is that their pipes are clogged up, and you know that can easily go to a chamber in the heart. You know, so it's all disingenuous. It all leads back to what you consume.
Yep.
You know?
It's totally, and we're about to get into the next part of this. The first part I was talking about was infertility. So why can't you get pregnant? And if you're late to the party, the big reasons, natural reasons, is your nerve flow sucks. Go to a chiropractor. And then the other ones are insulin resistance and autoimmune issues that you have APL antibodies. So let's go on to the next part. How do you carry a baby? Okay, if you get that far, how come you keep getting miscarriages?
Right.
Well, let's talk about that first diagram I put up. Do you remember that nerve diagram I stuck up earlier where it talked about, well, if the nerves are pinched to the uterus, do you think you can have a baby developed if you're only getting half the nerve flow you should?
Right.
You think you're going to be able to carry a baby when every other signal gets blocked?
Yeah.
So if you're not under chiropractic care, when you are pregnant, you are making a huge mistake. I don't care what your pediatrician says. They don't know what they're talking about if they tell you not to go. Because if you said, well, how do I know the nerve flow is good to my baby? They'll go, well, it just is. Don't worry about it. You know, the doctor could hurt you, could cause you to have a miscarriage.
Right.
And that's BS. Chiropractors, the family guys take insane amounts of training to adjust you safely while you're pregnant. Don't worry about that. It's all like fear BS. It's not true.
Right.
So if you have a pediatrician and you're like, you think I should go to a chiropractor, and they tell you no, you might want to shop around for another pediatrician, because they're doing you an injustice, straight up. If the nerve flow doesn't go to your uterus right, what are your chances of a healthy development?
Well,
your placenta.
Well, Doc, can you break that down? When you say the nerve flow going to the placenta, you're talking about the transport of nutrition, right?
No, I'm actually talking the impulses from your brain running through the nerves to your uterus, telling it, hey, grow a placenta. You know, like it has to send, everything comes from your brain first down your spine and then out to your uterus. So if that pathway is jammed up anywhere, your brain will say, okay, start developing. Oh, this third signal got through. Start developing. Oh, this signal got through. So you're only developing half of what you should be doing. Your brain's going to constantly be firing, and the uterus isn't going to get the message.
Got it.
Nerve flow controls all kinds of things. Nutritional development, sure. How to pass nutrients back and forth. It responds to development, especially of, you know, thickening the lining and all that. Sure, it's a hormonal function, but where do you think what tells those hormones to release? Your nerves. You know,
how the body talks to every part of
everything's back to the nervous system, man. That's the first thing you got to check. If those nerves aren't working right, your hormones are going to be whacked out. Your ovaries are going to be whacked out. Your uterus is going to be whacked out. Nothing's going to work right. So that's why I'm saying a secure nerve flow. Right. Did you miss the picture in the beginning? You know what I was talking about? Then pull it back up.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can pull it back up. You can pull it back up.
I gotta find it. I closed it down because I don't know what I was doing. I don't know where it went. Hold on.
Do you think this is also the cause for, you know, like Down syndrome and all these birth defects and all that
combination stuff? I mean, that's some as you're carrying a gene, right? The sort of genetic damage. Other is that why does the gene express itself? Probably because the mother's some sort of an autoimmune inflammatory state, you know. And then the other is if you have bad nerve flow or bad nutrition, if you don't have, you know, like all the folic acid stuff with the spinal cord deformities, you know, that's no mystery. So let's take a look at this spine again, guys. Right, here's your nervous chart. So if we're looking at the nerves, all the nerves that come out of the low back, especially a lot of women when I used to x-ray them had problems with the lowest disc. And maybe they were athletes when they were young or gymnasts, especially gymnasts. Oh my goodness, they're the worst. Spines. Okay, and then you'll notice that all these nerves, right? All this, these nerves that come out of the low back and the sacrum go to your ovaries, your uterus. Remember we talked about this. So if these nerves are pinched and they're not getting the signal right, your baby is going to have, well, I should say your placenta that's developing is not going to develop the way it should. Does that make sense? I mean, your brain has to say, hey, placenta start forming. And if that signal gets blocked somewhere along the way, that's a problem. Or if the uterus is not getting the signals it needs, it's not going to release the correct hormones it needs to, or the ovaries, etc. So the nerve thing's a real big deal. While you're pregnant, you need to be under care, or you're really making it hard on yourself. You don't. I mean, you're crazy not to go. Let me explain some more wonderful things about it. So we got this model, the spine, right? Now, this hole is where the baby comes out, right where this is the baby's head. You guys with me?
It's a little bit bigger than that, I'm just saying.
Not really, a little. Now it does open, yeah. When it's when
yes, it does.
These ligaments get really lax, and they become this special time where these ligaments and joints open up way further than they should. You have this hormone relaxin that pops these things open, and your baby can start coming out. Now, imagine if you got a bad low back, and you have an iliac subluxation that makes this hole deformed, that one of your hips is higher than it should be, or one of your iliac crest, or one of your whatever, your pubis symphysis is twisted. Whatever the reason is, this hole is now not round and open, it's now collapsed on one side. Do you think the baby's going to have a harder time getting through?
Absolutely.
There's not as much room.
That's when they have to go and pull it out.
They have to have the hours and hours of painful labor, because you would basically have to rip this area open in order to pull the baby out.
It just sounds painful.
That's what happens. I mean, it rips up. And so if you are under chiropractic care and they maximize this size of hole during your pregnancy, guess what happens a lot easier when it's time to deliver this baby?
Yeah, you just push them out.
You come out way faster.
Right.
You come out where it's not as painful for the mother. It's a lot easier on the baby. You want to maximize that hole as big as you can and make sure it's not crooked and twisted.
Right.
So during this wonderful, wonderful time where your ligaments become relaxed, there's a once-in-a-lifetime golden opportunity for chiropractors to go in and fix chronic problems. See, ligaments, they don't really heal that much. Once you stretch them out, they just scar up, and kind of you try to get the scars tissue to line up the right way, but that's about the best you can do. While you're pregnant, as these ligaments open, if say you have a twisted chronic back, why I adjust you and realign it, if I keep realigning it after your pregnancy is over and we keep it nice and where it's supposed to be, the ligaments then tighten back down, and you can fix a chronic subluxation in a way because of the ligament laxicity, where you can't really do that in males. There's so much scar tissue and the ligaments are shot. You can't really just get them back to where they're supposed to be. But in women, you can. During that pregnancy, it is like this golden opportunity to fix a chronic bad back or a chronic pelvic problem. And when the ligaments tighten back down, if everything's supposed to be where it was, it'll accept the new position of the bones. That's a wonderful little trick that is a bonus for you having a baby there.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. That's amazing. So why is it harder to do people with that are gymnasts?
Gymnasts, women develop, they have a softer spine during development, and when you put massive rotation and then stop it shears the disc of the low back, and it's just super damaging to the discs. So they end up getting early arthritis problems. I used to x-ray gymnasts that looked like they had like spines of a 40-year-old and they're like 15. It's like, what are you doing how do you get this much arthritis in 3 years? And
well, it doesn't make a lot of sense, the sudden stopping, because it's
the massive force of rotation coming to a stop.
Right.
That's just like, and golfing is the other worst thing you can do for your low back. Bending over and then going to a maximum rotation is like the most shearing thing you could do to a disc. Besides maybe truck driving, by the way.
I got both of them right.
Truck driving is really bad.
Hey Doc, I was thinking about that whole birth process you explained. Are you telling me that the MDs don't put value in that? And that's why, because if you go to a hospital now, they're quick to do a C-section, right? They're very quick to cut someone open and pull the baby out. If someone has a bad back, to your point, that's a great opportunity to fix their problem, or a hip adjustment. But it seems like this industry promotes that alternative method of birth, and
they make,
it bothers me.
How much money they make when you have a home birth? They don't. So they of course, I don't know what happened in the 1950s where childbirth became a 9-month disease. It's not like, like all of a sudden everything's all these tests and this procedure, and you have to have it in the hospital. And I don't know what the hell happened to natural childbirth. I'm glad to see a movement coming back and doing that. It is a thing that MDs don't get trained like chiropractors, just like I don't get trained to do what they do. There's some great MDs. I'm not trying to bash MDs, but they don't know what they're talking about if they tell you not to go to a chiropractor during pregnancy. They don't.
No, it's the same thing that they don't. A lot of times they don't tell them that when they have all these back problems that they should go to a chiropractor, and then they should see a massage therapist. Their muscles are part of the issue, but they never. I think in one client that I've had said that the doctor recommended them to come to a massage therapist. Otherwise, they never say anything, and then the person's left to take medication for whatever the problems are, right? And it just keeps going on and on. It's perpetual.
Yeah, and I was going to get to you about pregnancy massage here in a second, because it kind of goes with the same idea of it can make your pregnancy go a lot easier. If your spine is in alignment, it will help open that pelvic girdle to its maximum, which is what we want. And a part of that is massage is excellent for also pushing around stagnant fluid, all the extra pressure you're carrying on your low back, getting that, all that out of your muscles.
The oxytocin.
The oxytocin. I forgot even about that too. Right. So, I go ahead and take over. And the reason I wanted a big part of Burma, she does pregnancy massage. So tell us about that.
Okay. Well, so you want to get into this discussion like we did prior to the show about, so when I went to school, they did teach that you should not be getting a massage in the first trimester. That's what they teach us massage therapists. Although I did some research on it last night, and a lot of MDs say that it's a bunch of crap, but I'm not quite sure about that. So that, for me, that's out. There are points in the foot that are reflexology points that could push a woman into labor early. So I would just say, probably for the first trimester, maybe not get a massage, or let your massage therapist keep to your upper half and don't let them get into your legs, and watch your hands. There's a point right here that you want to watch them not touching. But besides that, yes, massage therapy is great for pregnant women. It helps to relieve back issues and maybe even issues where the baby's sitting. You have to be very careful in there, but which is really fun because sometimes you can feel the baby kicking when you're massaging somebody, so it's kind of like really weird, but it's awesome. And also takes pressure off their legs because their legs hurt, their back, you know, so you have to do sideline the person and then massage down one side and then flip them over and massage down the other side. But every woman that's come to me that's been pregnant, when they're done, it's they feel so much better. So I recommend it highly. Helps with stress level too. Like Taryn was saying earlier, that the stress is a big thing, especially when you're trying to get pregnant. Like you should try. I think people should try to meditate prior, because I think that if you can bring your stress level down, and then as well as you're eating well too, that's giving you every optimal to get pregnant. You know, then if you're massaging too and getting rid of all of your toxins that are in your system prior to getting pregnant, that's probably amazing as well. You know, that really helps in that area. And let me see, I did research last night. So I said there are some oils too, which are like eucalyptus and peppermint. If you have a cold when you're pregnant, you should try those things. But of course, do your research. Let me see what other things I wrote today. I have a list.
That's okay.
I have a list today, so I was good. It relieves backaches, stiff necks, leg cramps, headaches. Oh yes, swelling. When a woman's pregnant, she swells a lot, especially feet, legs, sometimes into their hands. We can help that edema by pushing that into the lymph system, so the lymph system then can get rid of that extra water, which happens to all women. It happened to me, and I was extremely thin and hardly, you know, but I still had, you know, bigger ankles and that kind of thing. I wish I would have known about massage therapy when I was pregnant, but I didn't, because they don't tell you about that. The doctors don't say, go to a massage therapist, go to a chiropractor. So it's good that we're on here doing this.
Yeah, I think the message is getting out that a lot more mothers want to do as natural as they can, because, you know, there's studies that show like even taking an aspirin can screw your pregnancy up. Mm-hmm. So why would you not want to just go, you know, if you're having back pain, you need to go to one of us, preferably both.
Yes.
And that's a much safer option than just take an aspirin. You know, or well, we'll just give you some of the Tylenol safe when you're pregnant. Don't worry about it. Not really. I mean, there's always a chance for a side effect of something. So, and not that, you know, I mean, to be fair, sure, there can be side effects of chiropractic and massage, but they're so astronomically small. It's like being struck by lightning and eaten by a shark the same day. You know, it's so small. It's nothing I would even worry about.
Nice analogy.
It's true if you look at like the statistics.
A shark can get struck by lightning at the same time. Can you imagine?
If you look at the statistics, I think me and Burma were talking about that there's just a lot of things because of lawsuits and fear that are not done. That because when mothers are so distraught when they lose a child, that the first anger kind of takes over. The first thing they do is go, well, I never gone to a chiropractor. I got adjusted and I lost my baby. It's that damn chiropractor's fault. And it's like, no, you were probably going to lose that baby anyway, you know. But that's what they're going to think. And you know, the first person that they never blame, you know, their MDs.
It's the doctor.
You know, right? They never blame like, hey, why didn't he tell me to eat well like this? And you know,
right.
So
it's also like you were saying, Taryn, if they're miscarrying, they got to break down what's going on. Because if you're miscarrying, there's a reason why you're miscarrying, right? No, I don't know what the reason is. For every woman, it's different. But like you guys were saying, it could be diet, it could be health style, it could be you're not exercising, it could be so many things. It could be that your lining is not attaching correctly the way it should be, or that the egg's not dropping down, or your man's infertile. You know, it could be so many different things.
It could be the environment. The environment that you live in. You got a lot of houses are toxic waste dumps. You know, if a person
Lead
living
paint.
in a very toxic area, it can have a directly impact on your pregnancy. One other aspect I think we can add to this is exercise. For some reason, pregnant women think they don't need to exercise, and I beg to differ. There's nothing wrong with light exercise. You know,
I walked a mile a day vegan when I was pregnant.
Yeah,
I walked a mile a day.
It helps with your delivery.
Yeah.
Don't you think that pumping blood to your, you know, developing baby might be a good idea? Pumping nutrients in and out a lot, you know, of course, exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, in a natural shoot, man, back in the day, man, they would be, they barely stopped to have a baby.
They're carrying the bowls on their head and going to the water well, you know.
I worked in a dietary, in a kitchen for my whole, and my water broke, and I worked that early that day, and my water broke, and I went in and had the baby, and you know, I mean, granted, I was young, you know, I was 19, but yeah, that baby, I was like, that baby was out 10 minutes, man. It was like, see you later.
Yeah, the exercise is vitally important during pregnancy, you know.
Yeah.
And sunshine.
And I ate like, granted, I was still I was a meat eater, but I ate red meat once a week, and the rest of it, no chips, no. I stayed away from a lot of breads. I ate very healthy when I was pregnant, and you know, thank goodness, because he was born 2 months premature and did very well. I mean, he had a little bit of lung problems. You know, my water broke. You know, what are you gonna do?
Oh, you're young. I mean, you're having
26
a kid at 19,
and wonderful. You know. No problem.
There's a question for you in the chat room about cinnamon. Burma, is cinnamon
I don't know.
good for pregnancy? Sorry, ask Burma if cinnamon is dangerous for pregnancy.
I'm gonna have to look. Who asked?
Marlena.
Marlena, I'll look that up for you. I don't know. That's a good question. I do know it's really bad. Like if you have ants crawling on places, you can put cinnamon line there, and they won't cross the cinnamon line. I don't know. Does that help?
Yeah, that
I don't really know.
That's a good transition to your uterus as well. Yeah, just sprinkle some cinnamon around your uterus. It'll keep ants out, so that's good.
You'll have an ant baby.
I'll keep ants down.
It's funny.
Okay, so did I answer all your questions with this, guys? Is, you know, it's kind of the same answers over and over. Get your nervous system checked. Eat an anti-inflammatory diet if you suspect autoimmune issues. You don't want to have a kid with all those antibodies flared up. Not a good idea. So the more natural, the better. And obviously, try to slow down. As Burma keeps saying, you know, everybody, God, our society just sucks because everything is stress. And sometimes you got to step back and be like, you know, I'm having a baby here, another life. I think I just need to stop doing what I'm doing in my life that's stressing me out. And just, you know, own up to it and stop creating stress in your life, man. Chill out.
You know what, Taryn? A lot of people. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just saying, if you're infertile, remember what I was telling you. The biggest reason for infertility is insulin resistance. And guess what you do when cortisol levels when you're stressed out? You wonder why you can't lose weight if you're stressed out? Same thing. So.
Right. I would say too, like half the problem, like, and these are just normal people that come to me, is that they're constantly coming back. Here is and neck are two major issues, and it's all stress related. It's all stress related, and usually they're worrying about things they can do nothing about. So it's called wasteful worrying. You know, I know it's a hard thing to get over, to try to program yourself to stop doing that. But if you're worried, then just drop down and say, okay, why am I worried? Can I do anything about it? You know, if you can't, get rid of it, because it's no good for any of us, right?
Right.
It's no good for any of us.
I do also remind people too that, you know, a little praying, a little spirituality, good for stress, meditation, whatever your flavor. I don't care what you do, but also doesn't hurt.
You got a rainbow on you, by the way.
Do I? I'm very.
I don't know where it's coming from, but
the baby feels what the mother feels. You know, I mean, I guess the easiest way to keep this into perspective is to remember the baby feels what the mother feels. You know, and if you're feeling uptight and stressed, and you know, the baby feels that. it knows the state of the mother. You know, you can look at it that way.
Yeah.
I think that's a good visualization. You know?
Someone was asking in the chat room, why do people stay so fat after pregnancy? Again, a lot of times it's just lifestyle. They get into eating like a pregnant woman and don't stop when they're done. They just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, though, is it can be definitely a hormonal imbalance. And if it's their second baby, there's a good chance it's an autoimmune thyroid problem. Like around your second child, your second pregnancy sometimes causes you to attack your own thyroid. And it will, all the people be like, man, my health was great until I had that second child. And then, you know, so if that sounds like your story, you might want to get your thyroid checked out.
Yeah, Doc, can I comment on that?
Yeah, knock it out.
There's this thing in our culture that says because a woman is pregnant, she can eat whatever she wants. You know, she has all these different cravings, so therefore she should have a gallon of chocolate ice cream and, you know, pickles and all these different things.
I mean, pickles are good.
Yeah, pickles are good, but you got to break it down. What is the craving? The craving is either for one or two things. It's for sugar and it's for salt. Sugar or salt. The actual food itself is not what's being craved. That's what your mind conjures into satisfying the craving. So if a woman is craving for sugar, my recommendation I've had a few clients that were pregnant that I've worked with was you can eat whatever you want, because I don't ever want a person to feel like they can't do something. But first, eat those grapes before you eat that Twinkie. You know, eat that apple before
you must love Twinkies, vegan. Because you always go to the Twinkies.
I say Twinkies because it's just a toxic processed food.
I'm just wondering, do you miss the Twinkies, vegan?
So, no, I never ate Twinkies. Actually. But if you say Krispy Kreme donuts, yeah, I used to love.
Oh my God, they're so good. They're so bad, but so good.
But all that is a craving for sugar and salt. Sugar and salt, sugar and salt. Those are the cravings. So if you eat that healthy alternative first, once you've completed that, then you can eat whatever you want. Most of the time, they only want it.
You know, it was
so
crazy.
The body needs sugar and salt. That's all it needs. So look at it that way. I need sugar, I need salt. I'm going to go with whole natural sugar. I'm going to go with whole natural salt foods. And then if that doesn't satisfy me, I'll go get that toxic food. So that approach, you're going to eat less toxic food if you still eat it, or you may not eat it at all because the craving has been satisfied. You know, that's my approach.
Yeah. No Twinkies.
I used to, when I was really trying to lose weight, I would eat a lot of cherries. Cherries were like candy to me, and they were so healthy. I mean, they solved that sugar craving. They're like candy,
yes.
man.
I was lucky, you know, when I was
so damn expensive. Well,
and they fill you up. It will fill you up if you eat enough of them. You know?
Yeah, cherries are my go-to when I can afford it.
I didn't have any kind of. I was lucky when I was pregnant. I didn't get any like cravings. So when women say they get cravings for certain things, I didn't have that at all. I mean, maybe it's because I'm not that food oriented like some people are, that they love to eat. I eat because I absolutely have to eat.
Well, you were like 19 though, right? So I think it's a little different. I think your food relationship and all that stuff changes in your 30s.
It's still the same for me though. I mean, I ate because I had to eat when I was young. I didn't eat because I don't know. It's very rare that I really, really enjoy a meal, like tastefully enjoy a meal. I'm sorry, vegan, but I really like sushi. Oh my goodness, I so like sushi. That is one of the things I enjoy the heck out of. It's so healthy. I know, vegan, because like it's like I'm hiding from you because I'm a meat person.
And enjoy the parasites. Enjoy that.
Oh, come on now. What? You just ruined it for me. It's the only thing I like to eat.
Saying there.
Thanks, Doc.
Have you ever watched that show Monsters Inside Me?
Yes.
Like 90% of them start with, well, I ate sushi. Well, and then I got a lung fluke.
Well,
I ate a live crab.
But if you go to a reputable place, I mean, look at the Japanese culture for 1 minute and look at how healthy they are. Now,
granted, maybe not healthy. They're thin. They're not healthy. They have some of the highest problems with liver problems on the planet. So
well, okay,
people are like, well, they look good. Yeah, they look good.
Probably too much. What's in fish? Mercury, right? There's a lot of mercury in fish. So I mean, like it is a balance if you're going to do it, right? I mean, maybe vegan's absolutely right. You have to go 100% natural, but it's hard to do.
It is hard to do.
When you're a meat eater and you have been for so many years to like make that transition, it's difficult. Although,
absolutely, it's a gradual process.
So you keep bringing him on, and it's gonna help. It's gonna help me because he totally makes me feel guilty. Like I totally feel guilty.
I'm not trying to make anybody.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's actually a good thing in me. Like that says something to me as a person, right?
Nah, don't feel guilty because feeling guilty means you have regrets. You don't want regrets.
I do have regrets because I was so much healthier when I was younger. I know these things.
You can't change the past. The past can't be changed. So it's all about what
that junk food I was eating. I don't actually eat that much junk food. It's kind of crazy that way. I don't like Twinkies. I hate freaking Twinkies. Like what? That doesn't even taste good to me. Like what? Really? I have a cabinet here. The man, you should see this cabinet. It is like I go in there and I don't see anything I want except for maybe nuts. That's it. Because all the other stuff he eats, I just want to kick his butt because he eats like crap. He's like sugar cubes and all kinds of junk.
Like a horse, he just eats sugar cubes.
Well, remember I was talking about he was using him as an example. Oh no, I'm telling you, he was so funny. He's up here and I come walking around the corner and all I hear is this rustling around, like really quick, putting crap back, and he's shoving things in his mouth, and he turns around and I was like, what are you eating? He's sugar cubes. I have absinthe that I bought sugar cubes for, and he's shoving them in his mouth like a little kid, you know. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's got like cheeks like he's like a squirrel, you know. And I'm like, you got to stop this. I'm like, I know that it's hard to go, like, I don't try to I don't want to be that woman, but I also want him to be healthy. His dad became a later diabetic in his later life, and I don't want him. And I could see he's on this road. He's on this path. I've gotten him off drinking sodas and better, he likes iced tea. He won't go to water as much as I try to help him with that. But I know it's difficult, especially if you're addicted, because sugar is very addictive, especially, and vegan, right? Raw sugar is so much better than bleached white sugar.
Right.
It's bleached.
Right.
That's all you have to say. It's bleached.
You got to remember, whatever you take away, you got to replace. You know, it can't be, I'm not going to eat sugar anymore. That's not even humanly possible. We need sugar. Sugar is a requirement, right?
Good sugar.
So it's all about an unhealthy removal and a healthy replacement.
I'm just going to take all the stuff out and replace it.
the healthy replacement must be stuff that he likes.
Right.
It should not be what you like. It should be what he likes. He needs to explore the fruits and vegetables that he likes, you know, and then eat them. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. He's terrible with that, though. I mean, I try because I eat like mango and pears and apples, and I always have those in the house, and he'll go for the snacky snacks, like, you know, what do we got up here? We got like chips, we got like Slim Jims, we have crumpets, Tasty Cake crumpets up there. I mean, like, I could just go off. I mean, there's only a good couple of things. I got some ginger candy. That's mine. He would never even touch that.
Who buys it? Does he buy his own food?
Yeah, he goes and buys that stuff. He'll go, like, because I don't buy that stuff for the house. He'll go out and he'll go on a binger, and he'll come home with a whole bunch of bags of this stuff and put them up there. And I'm just like, you know, but he's the one that's like 6'2", and he doesn't weigh much. You looked at him, he's very fit. I mean, he's a Mason, so he works his butt off, you know, so he does need that sugar, absolutely. But I just make a couple, you know, healthier choices, unless you want to die tomorrow, because like that's, you know.
And that's the crazy thing is, I'll see these thin, you know, beautiful women, and then you do their blood work, and you're like, holy crap, you're about, you know, you should be dead. And so just because they're thin and beautiful doesn't mean anything. Their blood work is, and on the flip side is, I've tested a couple fat guys that have much healthier blood work. You're like, well, they might be fat, but they're all right inside right now, you know. So it's hard to judge.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, exercise is a great tool to mask a person's outer health. health appearance. You know, a lot of these guys, like, look at the bodybuilders, for example. You know, a lot of steroid guys, they look phenomenal, but their internal organs and stuff is horrible. You know, and you can notice it when they get off the steroids. When they get off the steroids, that mask of what they look like falls apart. You know, a lot of them really look bad once they get out of the professional.
The ones that do it naturally vegan, you can tell because they have muscle memory that stays with them for 20 years and they haven't worked out for 20 years and they still have the muscles of what they used to have. Like, I'll be like, were you a bodybuilder of some sort? But no steroids. That's more of a natural thing where they just kind of progressively have slightened off of working out as much as they used to.
Same thing with athletes. You know, competitive sport athletes. A lot of football players blow up like houses when they stop playing. You know, so that exercise can give you that outer appearance that you look like you're healthy when really you're not. You know, your consumption catches up with you. Basically, that's how it works.
Wasn't there a disease back in the long time ago that was called consumption? Was that TB or something?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis, right?
It's still fun to say.
Why did they call it that? Do you even know?
I don't know. I assume it because it consumes your lungs. I don't, your trachea and stuff. TB. I don't know.
I have the consumption.
It's like lumbago. Have you heard that one?
No.
Lumbago is back pain. It's the old term for it. People
for lumbar pain. That makes sense. That makes sense.
It was funny because I used to practice way out in the countryside. They had it was like 100 years different. They'd be like, I got pain in my leaders. I'm like, what the hell's a leader? And they're talking about their neck muscles, that the muscles lead from their neck to their shoulder. They're leaders. You know, it's like a term, an old cattle term or something. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What is leaders?
I love the SEM. You know how long it took me to say sternocleidomastoid muscle? I mean, it took me forever to be able to say that muscle. That's that's
say
our money maker right there. That muscle right there. You say the what?
I just say SEM. I always stumble it.
Scalenes.
SEM.
Yeah. Well, I have one that I always the ilio. I call it the psoas. I don't call it the iliopsoas. I call it the psoas.
They're different muscles, though. Sort of.
Yeah, well, the iliopsoas. But it's funny. I have this lady says when she passes away, she's gonna come to me and she's gonna whisper psoas in my ear, so I know it's her.
That's funny. Okay, let's get back on infertility for a second.
Yeah. Hey, Doc, can I add one thing?
Yeah, man, do it.
The importance of water. I think water is probably more important than the consumption of food, you know, the types of food. I think we're drinking toxic water. And I think a lot of that could be linked to some of the stuff that we're talking about. What's your view on that?
Oh, yeah, I won't touch unfiltered water just because it's so hard to get pure water now. Like I have a 3-stage, because, you know, I live with a holistic hygienist who she is so anti-fluoride, it's crazy. So, you know, it's just kind of interesting to see someone in the dental profession so against fluoride, which is pretty interesting. So a lot of filters don't have the fluoride filter. You got to spend some money to get the fluoride filter to get it out. And and so I still, I drink very pure water, and a lot of it.
You have city water?
No, I'm on a well.
If you're on a well, then you shouldn't have fluoride.
Oh, no. Excuse me. No. I back in the day, I was on a well.
Oh, I got you.
Right now, I'm on the city. Yes, we're back on.
No, I love. Yeah, I couldn't even see. City water's terrible.
You know, and sometimes well water, it depends. Like I was on well water next to a bunch of farming community, and you're like, what the hell's getting in the water table from all the pesticides they spray on all their shit?
You know, I lived out in Nebraska, and they had some problem with the tower. It was a very small town, and I poured my bath the one day, and I go in and look, and I'm not even kidding, I have a picture of it. It was like thin like this. It looked like, you know how oil, when it separates in water, it sits on the top of water, right? Because water is heavier. This is what this looked like, although it was clear. It was clear. I'm like, oh my goodness. I let all the water back out. I filled it up back up again. Another thing. And then I was, you know, I have a filter, but I was giving my plants water. They started dying. I'm like, man. And then they come out with this thing, don't drink the water. Oh, okay.
A little late. Yeah. If your water looks crazy right out of the faucet, no.
You probably shouldn't drink it.
If your water separates, not a good sign.
Right. If it's brown, flush it down. No.
Yeah, you can't trust this stuff. Anyway, we'll get into that, and that's a whole nother show. Fluoride.
Yeah. Well, just to end that, I do completely distilled water. That's all I consume. I don't drink any other substances other than distilled water.
Do you have your own distiller, or do you just buy distilled water?
I've done both. You know, if I'm traveling, I'll buy some distilled water, but I have my own countertop distiller.
How much water do you drink a day?
About a gallon and a half.
So your distiller will make about a gallon and a half a day?
My distiller will make 5 gallons a day.
Wow, that's a good distiller you got, man.
Yeah. You know.
All right. Good to know.
But it makes 1 gallon at a time.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so it's just always on.
Yeah, I keep it on all the time.
Good to know. Yeah, that is the safest water to drink for sure. Distilled. All right, that's about it for our show on infertility. If you missed the beginning of this, you'll have to go back because we gave you all kinds of ways from natural management and some things to increase your chances of carrying a baby. I really hope you take it to heart before you go and spend $50,000 at a fertility clinic. Start conservative first. Try some natural approaches first. There's always the clinic later. That's all I have to say today. We are going to jump over to, if you're new here, we go to a Discord. I'm not going to call it that anymore. We're going to call it the chat room. We go over to the chat room, the feel good chat room, the Afterglow. We will be in there, and I'll be there for a few minutes, but then I have a manifesting event at 3 o'clock I got to go do. So that is today at 3. We're trying to manifest a missing person. So I'll only be in there a few minutes, and then after that we're splitting.
How are we doing that?
Just meet in Discord. Okay. I'll show you all that.
Okay.
Link to the Discord. Hopefully Marlena will drop that. Marlena, thanks for the help. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Marlena.
The donations today. Sunshine gave me some love. Magi gave me. He gets me something every show. I don't know what's going on there.
Guy.
Both of them do actually. And then and Michelle dropped a big donation. Lots of love going around. Thanks so much. I'm hoping this information gets out there and helps. If you have friends that are trying to have a baby, please pass this along to them. Even though, and they hopefully they like cats because we spent a lot of time in the beginning talking about cats.
And so, yeah, she nailed me pretty good, man. Let me tell you, it's swelling up a little bit. I'm sorry about that. Oh my goodness, you had to like get me in the show, right?
That's okay. That's what live streaming's about. You can see all the stuff that happens in the background. There's no censoring.
So awesome. The last one that your cat just totally started the show, and it was too bad that it was focused on me because I was laughing so hard. Because it would have been just even better if they could have seen that.
He had crushed the button, and I couldn't figure out how to turn you back on. And then I figured it out, and he had split. So
it's so funny.
Yep. All right. Stay positive. Support each other. Be nice to your cat. See you next Tuesday for Ben Stone, the Bad Quaker. So hopefully you come to that show too. I'll see you guys in the Afterglow chat. Bye, y'all.
Peace.